Welcome, everyone, to ITD Gaming News. This week, we're going to talk about the topics from the last week of what we feel are the top topics in gaming news that came out last week. So we're a little bit behind. We're the week behind. So we're the weekly gaming news a week late. so let's get started. On this week, we're just going to kind of give you a highlight on what we're going to talk about. So this week, we're going to talk about Sony sued for limiting purchases on the PlayStation Store. We're also going to talk about how Sony makes Epic Games pay for Fortnite crossplay. And then there's rumors about PlayStation 5 redesigns in the works. So we'll talk about that. And some good news for Yakuza. Sounds like they're going to keep the turn-based combat going forward with all their new games. So another Sony heavy week for us. Sounds like Sony's real big talks into the news here lately. So let's just get started with the first one. There's an article from Bloomberg that came out that basically said Sony is being sued. It's a class action lawsuit, which means it's being brought by consumers for limiting the purchases of games on the PlayStation Store. So what that basically are saying is that you can't purchase PlayStation games digitally from anywhere but the PlayStation Store. So they kind of they're saying it's a monopoly on the purchases of digital games on the Sony Store. So it sounds like they kind of have merit because everybody else allows you to buy games from other places. Like you can buy Xbox games digitally through Walmart, Best Buy. You can buy the little digital card and take it back, put the code in. It allows you to get games at a discounted price that may not be discounted on the current storefront. So what the class action suit is claiming is that Sony is controlling the digital market on its platform. So you can't buy digital games anywhere but from them, which means that they can charge an exorbitant price. So if I wanted to get Yakuza, like a dragon, as an example, or whatever I wanted to get, it may be full price on the store, but I can go out and buy physical copies, or I can go buy other copies at other locations for cheaper, but I can't put those digitally on the PlayStation. So it sounds like they have some merit, but we'll see. It's just, I think that was just a few days ago that they announced that lawsuit. It'll be interesting. Nick, what do you think about that Sony being sued for limiting the purchases of games on PlayStation Store? We'll say they used to up until like 2019, I think.
Yeah, for PlayStation, I typically do buy physical, but that was one thing that, you brought that up, and that's one thing that I really didn't notice about PlayStation. And now that I think about it, that's true. When you go to like Best Buy or Walmart online, you usually see like the different options of what you can buy, and there is a Nintendo, the Switch physical or Xbox physical and digital, but PlayStation's always just physical. I guess I never put two and two together to think like, oh, why is that? But yeah, I mean, I can understand why people would be upset and why they would put forth a class action lawsuit for it. Not everybody, some games do go on sale on Best Buy and Walmart that, like you said, that are not on sale on the store. So what if somebody wants Yakuza Like a Dragon and it, on Walmart.com, it's $20 and, on the store it's still 60. You could buy the physical edition, sure, but, for those players that like buying digital and digital only, or maybe, think about it with the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, you have the disc drives and all the versions, but PlayStation 5 has a discless version. So what if you had, and then there's the new Yakuza and you have the digital only PlayStation and you can't buy it from the store? You can only buy it from the Sony store and it's still $60 there, whereas Best Buy or whatever has it for $30 for a weekend sale or something. That happens a lot with retailers. So yeah, I mean, Xbox and Nintendo allow you to do it. They have no problem with it. And I think in this case, Sony should have no problem with it. And I think that's something they should definitely change, which you said it changed in 2019. So clearly they had it before and then they decided they weren't going to do that anymore. So I wonder, I think I know their decision on why they don't want to do that, but they're being anti-consumer in that case, just saying you can only buy from us when it comes to digital. Whereas Nintendo and Microsoft are saying, no, go ahead and buy it off of whatever, I'm sure they get a percentage for those sales anyway. So, why Sony can't just keep with that and be a part of that consumerism that the other two publishers are. I'm not sure. That's strange. It'll be exciting to see what happens with this. Whether they lose or what they do with this class action lawsuit.
Which you mentioned a good point that I don't know why it didn't click in my brain until you just mentioned it. It's probably because I don't have one. The PS5 all digital. You're stuck paying Sony prices for games at that point, which, up until actually right this moment, I'll be honest with you, I was thinking about buying the digital console, but now I'm kind of not thinking it's a great deal now, especially if this lawsuit continues or gets thrown out, because at this point, I don't have recourse to get cheaper games than if PlayStation Store decides they don't want to have a sale or anything like that. I'm kind of stuck paying full price, especially PlayStation is really leaning heavy on a lot of their titles being $70. I mean, the Returnal was just $70. Was the new Demon Souls Demon Souls, was it $70 when it came out? I can't remember if that one's 70.
I can't remember. I want to say yes, but I don't know for sure. I guess I can look it up here real quick, but I'm not sure. But I know a lot of their games, are being $70. And yeah, I was going for the PlayStation discless version, just like you. But since this news about and Demon Souls is $70. So since this news, I mean, I might want to go with the physical edition. That way, I can go to like Best Buy or Walmart or whatever and purchase Demon Souls, which I do want. And by the time I get a PlayStation, it'll be so old that, I mean, as far as how quickly games get old, but some place like Walmart or Best Buy will have it on sale for super cheap, and I can just pick it up for a cheap price and not have to worry about it. Or Returnal, by the time we get our PlayStations, Returnals will be on. It'll have something new and crazy out that everyone loves, and then I can pick up Returnal for like $20. Right?
It'll still be 70 on the PlayStation Store.
And it'll still be 70 on the PlayStation Store. Exactly.
Well, and you mentioned something too. I'll just kind of mention Nintendo. Now, this isn't here in the U.S., but in Europe, they don't allow retailers to sell first-party digital games. So I wonder if this will have an effect on that. If the outcome of this is against Sony, I wonder if this will kind of sway Nintendo where they have to stop doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it might take a class action lawsuit against Nintendo, especially in Europe. I mean, in the U.S., I believe we can buy them digitally from other stores. Even the first party stuff, but that might make them think twice, like, maybe we should change our minds about this. I don't know what the laws are between the US and Europe. I'm sure they're different on that type of stuff, so I'm not quite sure if a class action lawsuit in the European countries would, depending on the laws and all that crap, if they could do something like that, their stuff may be different, but here we shy against that stuff, so that's why Sony's got that class action lawsuit. But it might make them change their mind. And then, of course, I don't know how Microsoft is in European countries or anything like that. But Microsoft, especially in the last few years, especially with Phil Spencer being the leadership of the Xbox, they've been very consumer friendly. So I would assume across the board, they're pretty much open for business everywhere.
But yeah, you could buy digital copies of games just about anywhere. Walmart, Best Buy, just wherever you think about it.
Right.
Cool. So yeah, that's interesting. Sony will end up. I don't know. I don't see Sony coming out on top on this one. How do you explain that I don't allow you to purchase these anywhere but here? I don't know how they're going to uphold that, but we will see what the courts say about it.
Right. Yeah, we'll see.
I guess we'll all get a piece of that class action lawsuit, right? If you bought a digital PlayStation game between this time and this time, between 2019 and 2022, come get your $2 check.
Right, yeah. The check's in the mail. The postage is more than the check's worth.
Right. So we'll see how that happens, and I like to keep an eye on that because it's definitely would sway me if the class action lawsuit gets thrown out. It's definitely going to sway me from buying a PlayStation 5 all digital because I was thinking about that and not even clicked in my brain until this about I'm locked into their store only. So
right.
Well, good. All right. Well, let's move on to the next topic that was on there. This topic lends to the visceral hate. I don't know if it's visceral hate, but basically the butting of heads that PlayStation has had against crossplay. They don't want to be part of this crossplay. They don't want to. They claim they lose money because of it and everything else like this. But it just seems like another feather in their cap about how anti-crossplay they are, because Sony makes Epic Game. This is part of coming out of this Epic versus Apple lawsuit that's going on right now. And it was revealed that Sony makes Epic pay makes Epic Games pay more for Fortnite crossplay. And what that means is that supposedly when everybody buys money, what do they call it's been a while. Do you remember what they call their? Is it like V-Bucks or
Yeah,
whatever?
V-Bucks.
Their V-Bucks. Yeah, whenever they purchase V-Bucks, everybody that you play your account on gets a share of that money. So if I have an Xbox and a mobile and a PlayStation, I play the game on there with my skins that I purchased or whatever. I bought the V-Bucks in. All those participating consoles or participating platforms get a chunk of that revenue. It's come to light that PlayStation, if you play the majority of your time on PlayStation, they get a little extra bump. That was the only way they would come to the table to allow crossplay with this game. I'm like, to me, it's like, why? What gives you? I mean, obviously, Epic wanted them to come to the table to allow crossplay, so they're going to do what they can to make it happen. And by all means, they're not hurting for Fortnite because Fortnite made $2 billion $9 billion in 2 years, according to this Epic versus Apple lawsuit. They made $9 billion from the beginning of 2018 to the end of 2019. So it's not like they're losing money on this deal, but it's just another kind of showing of players that they don't want you to play with people from other platforms. And maybe a lot of Sony players don't even want that. I don't know, but it seems like Sony is very much against it. What's your take on that, Nick?
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of players do want to have the crossplay, because I remember when crossplay, that first kind of battle of crossplay came out, where Nintendo and Microsoft had that like Minecraft commercial, where they just play together and all that stuff. And a lot of people, because a lot of people, and not everybody, but there's some people I've read on forums and other things where they have friends that are just Xbox people, right? Or they have friends that are just Switch people, and they do want to play with those people, and and they maybe don't have enough money to go out and buy another console, and they have the Xbox or they have the Switch, and they can't go out and buy a PS4. So, and they would like to play these games like Fortnite and other games that are crossplay. Sony's really dragging their feet on this whole crossplay thing. They want to be a closed off system. They want to be a closed off network where you only play Sony and Sony only, and where Xbox and Nintendo are kind of like, hey, let's all play together, and that's kind of and I wish personally that Sony would come to the table with embracing crossplay, because it's just better for the consumers, right? Because Sony is they're not. I don't want to sound like I'm nitpicking, but they're very anti-consumer. They're all about their platform and making money for themselves, which they're a company and that's their bottom line is profit. But they just don't want to play well with others. So the fact that they're double dipping in Fortnite, and like you said, Epic wanted them to come. They wanted that crossplay to be available, clearly, since they said okay, but I wish Epic would have went the other route and said no, and it kind of brought it to the light of consumers saying, "Hey, look what Sony's trying to do," right? And that might have made Sony go, "Uh-oh, now we're in trouble."
Right.
But
yeah, I'm with you there. They have always seen this because they were like the last to the table from what I've seen. A lot of these games, they're always the last to say, now we allow playing with PC players and Xbox players or Switch players or whatever's capable. They're usually the last to come. They were the last to come to that from all this other stuff. There's going to be a lot of fallout from this Epic versus Apple lawsuit, and this is just one of them. I think it's kind of funny when they were talking about all this. One of the things that kind of came out was we were talking about how they get a little bit bigger cut of the pie if players play more on PlayStation than the other platforms do. Was that Fortnite made $9 billion in a 2-year span, and that they've spent only $11 million to get like Epic Game Store exclusives, basically like skins and all this kind of crap. I think it's going to have a negative effect where the people are going to be like, hey, we're not getting our fair cut of the profits here. They're going to be like, hey, you want that? Because there was news came out that they're trying to get a Samus skin, in Fortnite. So they're going to be like, let's see some of that money, that $11 million ain't going to cut it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could possibly see from this, just like you're saying, Nintendo and Microsoft saying, "Hey, why aren't we getting our fair share? Like why aren't we getting this extra deal? What's up with that?" Um, or it could have ramifications for Sony. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that, and especially Samus in Fortnite. Microsoft's, or not Microsoft, but Nintendo's very, they hold those characters close to their chest and are. It's really hard for them to make or to allow those characters to go anywhere else. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But yeah, I'm sure if Fortnite, if Epic wants Samus on there, they're probably going to have to deal out a pretty sizable chunk of change to allow for Nintendo to allow that to happen.
It's going to be one of those ultra super premium skins right there.
Yeah, probably $20 to buy it or something.
You'd be like, who else you want? You want Cloud? You want, you know, the Square
Master
Enix is going to
Chief.
come in and be
Well,
like, you guys
Master
want
Chief
some
was
Cloud?
in there.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
They already worked out a deal with Microsoft, and then they're going to go to
Yeah.
Square Enix and be like, you want Cloud? You want, who else you want? You want Sephiroth? Everybody's going to be coming in and get their hands in the pocket. Nintendo's going to be like, you want Donkey Kong? You want Diddy Kong? We'll give you those. We're not giving you Samus. We'll give you Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong.
Right. Yeah, they don't mind pimping those guys out. And they
Right.
also, I mean, Capcom, Epic's also gone to a lot. I mean, they've gone to a lot of different stuff. They had Star Wars characters. They had Street Fighter, so they definitely went with Capcom and on that. So, I mean, but Epic has got the money to throw around, so I guess they have enough money to throw an extra bone or two at Sony just to allow the crossplay. But it's pretty interesting stuff for sure.
Right. I don't like that. I mean, I guess it is business. Whatever you look at, it's business. Sony was able to negotiate a better deal for themselves because they were the holdout from the crossplay. And, Microsoft's all about crossplay, so they were probably the first in. They probably got like the smaller share because they're like, yeah, let's do it. We'll be willing to play with anybody you can bring to the table. And then, Nintendo's always been kind of a holdout for this. And then Nintendo's like, hey, we're going to do this. And then, Android's always like, we'll play with anybody. We'll play with anybody. The PC's been the same way because they're Microsoft. And Apple's a little bit of a holdout, but they really want the money. So if you pay them enough money, they're definitely going to do crossplay. So, but PlayStation was one of the last holdouts, and this just goes to more of their, because I think they've made statements either behind closed doors or rumored statements where they're just not all about this crossplay. That crossplay costs them money, and I'm not sure how that costs them money. I mean, are they assuming that the person would buy the game on PlayStation if they had both consoles because they wanted to play with their friends? I don't know how they're envisioning that, but I mean, I guess that's the only scenario that I can see, that if you are a friend of mine and you only have a PlayStation, but I have a PlayStation Xbox, and I've already played this game on Xbox, but if I want to play with you, I have to buy the game again on PlayStation. Is that how they're saying they're losing money, I guess? That'd be the only scenario I can take that in.
Yeah, and Sony's, they're kind of behind, and well, I don't know. I think the evolution of gaming and gaming consoles is evolving, right? And evolving past those, I feel like it's evolving past that, like, kind of how it used to be in the day, right? You had your PlayStation or your Xbox or your Nintendo, and those played those games and that played that game and whatever. It's kind of evolving into this kind of all-encompassing thing where you don't have these, you still have these platform holders, but they, especially Nintendo and Microsoft, they kind of mix and match their games together. They still have their exclusives and stuff, but they're kind of like fading in and out with each other, allowing certain things to come in and out of their ecosystems. And Sony's had this kind of, and has always had this kind of traditional look to it. That's even what they said about the PlayStation 5. This is going to be a traditional console leap, whereas, and we'll see what Nintendo does, but whereas Microsoft did an unconventional leap, they kind of kept the same architecture so that way games can continue. Again, we talk about game preservation, and Sony's not about game preservation. They're about the generational leaps in consoles. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole ecosystem of gaming, the whole dynamics of gaming kind of evolve throughout the years. Will we go back, to this traditional sense with everyone, or will it all kind of blend together in the end? Still having those with exclusives, but being kind of open with third parties and other various things. So it'll be interesting to see how things evolve. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Epic's got the money to throw around, so I guess they'll do what they need to.
then Sony's got the holdout power to hold
Right.
out.
I mean, they have
Or,
the most people playing it. They do have the dominance of the console market, so they do have some time that they could hold that out. You know, um, they're able to hold out because they do have that dominance. Even last, with the PS, pretty much every iteration of the PlayStation's been top seller. So, and the PlayStation
right.
5's no difference.
Right. And so now we're getting into that whole, yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, and I don't know why. I mean, it is what it is. I enjoy all the consoles. I buy all of them, and I have since I've gotten back into the console market. I mean, I was a PC game player for many years. I mean, I played PC games over PlayStation and Xbox even, and Nintendo. I stopped getting even Nintendo. I think after like I can't even remember when, but I've played a lot of the older consoles, but I never purchased like a PS1 or a PS2 or an Xbox or an Xbox 360. I never just got into those. No reason to. I had PC. PC was good enough for me. But when, at the end of the 360 era, I did get into that. I bought a Xbox 360 Elite, the all black one, and then I bought into the PlayStation 3, and I had both of those. Then I had Nintendo DSs, and I had a Wii. I never got a Wii U, but then I went into Xbox, PlayStation, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, and and the Switch, and now I've got a Series X, and I'd like a PlayStation 5, but they're just hard to get a hold of. But PlayStation, I don't know why PlayStation seems to dominate the market more. I mean, they do have good first party games, but I consider myself an average gamer, and I buy multiple consoles. So that kind of leads into the next news article that we were talking about, how hard it is to get a current PlayStation 5. Well, there's been a leak from the chip manufacturer for PlayStation 5. Who are they? They're what are they? They're Taiwanese business, TSMC. Leaked that they're basically producing a redesigned version of a chip for the redesigned version of the PS5. So supposedly it's going to be on the 6 nanometer AMD rather than the current 5 nanometer chip that they're doing. They're supposedly saying that the 5 nanometer chip is too expensive and too hard to manufacture, so it's slowing down them being able to produce more PlayStation. So TSMC has basically said they're redesigning the PlayStation 5 using that new 6 nanometer CPU from AMD. So that's going to be interesting, and they say that should go into production in 2022, which should ease up the market a little bit because they're going to be easier to produce and cheaper to produce too, supposedly. So I don't know if that means, and supposedly I've heard, but I've not seen many specs on the 6 nanometer chip that it's supposed to be higher performance. So we'll find out that as we get closer if this is real or not. I think one of the earnings report, Hiroki Tataki, I can't pronounce it. I always butcher his last name. Confirmed that there was the shortage of the semiconductors, which is why that they're having trouble producing everything. So, and that Sony was considering a redesign in the console. So there's going to be a couple of things that we'll kind of get into this, but if they redo this, it's got big ramifications, So Nick, what do you think before we kind of get into some other areas of this? What do you think about this news?
It's interesting. It's interesting to see what they do with this. You said that of course, we don't know how the chip's going to perform. It could perform exactly the same, being the different size chip. It makes sense for them to do that if they can get more consoles out quickly to the market. But it would make less sense for them to I would assume the redesign is going to be the same as far as the PlayStation 5's look. I would assume it's going to look the same. I don't think it's going to be any smaller or any different as far as the looks go. It'll probably be just the insides of the chip that's inside there. But if it's able to perform better, that's going to be a big problem. So, especially since if it's by 2022, it's been out a year and there's already a faster console, right? A console redesign. I mean, it makes sense for them to put in a separate chip so that way they can produce more. But if this chip outperforms the last chip, I think you're going to have a lot of consumers that are going to be very upset.
Right. Yeah, I kind of just read a little bit that it's supposed to allow 18% more transistor density compared to the N7, the older N7. The new N6 is supposed to be 18% more density for transistors. So, smaller, more densely packed because of their new layering. So that would mean a more powerful CPU, supposedly.
Yeah. So putting out a more powerful CPU, I mean, that's going to be. I think you're gonna. I think so. If that's the case, unless they do something, which I wouldn't think Sony would be so dumb to put out a more higher performing, console, or try to slip it under the, slip it under the rug that this is an outperforming console, because you have places like Digital Foundry that are going to, and other people on YouTube and stuff like that are going to look at these new consoles. They're going to know that this is a new model with a new chipset in it, and they're going to run performance tests and compare it to the last one. And if it outperforms it, even by 18%, then you're going to have consumers that bought it during its first year in 2021 that are going to be very upset that they're going to feel, I would assume, they're going to feel like they're being screwed over and wondering, well, where's my, new, can I trade in my PlayStation 5 for the new one? Because, you clearly put out a better system. So the one I bought last year is inferior to this new one. And that would be pretty bad for Sony. That would be pretty crappy for Sony to do in the first place. So,
well, I mean, it does happen though. I mean, PlayStation has done it in the past with like the slim versions and all that stuff, and they're usually more current hardware. I don't know what the timing difference is like 2 years or 3 years or whatever, but it's not unprecedented for something like this to happen. One thing that'll be a positive spin that comes out of this is all those douchebag scalpers that get stuck with consoles they purchase that are inferior quality, and they're not going to be able to sell them, and they're going to sell them at a loss. So I will be tooting the horn for that, and and hopefully cramming it down their throat with those hundreds of PlayStations they're sitting on. So I'll be rooting for this for that cause. But maybe PlayStation will come out and say, hey, this console is going to be $25 more, $50 more because of this new CPU. But from what I understand, they don't have a way to add additional costs because the process that they've been saying for the N6 version is easier to make, so cheaper to make. So they're not going to be able to charge more for it, but you will have, if the information I found on the CPU really was true, then you're going to have a little bit of a performance bump. Even if it's only 18% more, you're still going to have a performance bump.
Yeah, and like you said, the redesign stuff is not uncommon. That does happen, but I can't remember a redesign a year after a console's come out. Right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do that, or if they just, that might be something they just thought of and thought, well, that's going to really, we're going to have some really mad consumers if we do this. So they just kind of scrap that, so we don't know if that's concrete that they're going to do something like that. It'll be nice to be, like you said, to go against the scalpers. And it'll also be nice to be able to have PlayStation 5s in stock where you can easily get one. Then you're just going to have, if the chipset is like you said, and it does outperform it even by 18%, you're going to have some consumers that are going to try to justify it in some way. But you're going to have a lot of consumers that are going to be upset with something like that. So right. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Right. It's going to be, what they do, the PlayStation Slim and the PlayStation, like the piano one and all that stuff. So there's going to just be that different model. This is PlayStation Black or something,
Yeah, it comes with the black
PS5
sides.
Black. Yeah, it's going to be PS5 Black. There you go, PS Elite, something like that. They would never do that, though, because Microsoft did it.
Yeah, they wouldn't do something like that.
Right. There's just a huge rivalry between PlayStation and Microsoft and Apple and Microsoft and everybody against so it'll be interesting because I'm all for a console. I'd love to have one right now. And even knowing this news, if I could get a PlayStation 5, I would buy one right now. It's not gonna stop me. So it's just more news, in my opinion, that's good, because if Sony keeps dropping it on the N7 chip and the N6 at the same time, and you just pay a little bit more if you get the higher version, the 18% or whatever, then so be it. There'll be twice as much on the market, and you have to make that decision for yourself as a consumer. Can you live with buying a slightly inferior? We're not talking like a Series X versus an S inferiority here. We're talking like a small minor CPU bump, It's like the difference, it's minute, but it is a difference, For all that, then like I said, I'm just basing this off of information that I found on the chipset, on the AMD processor itself. For all I know, that could be missing a huge chunk of the way that this new processor is layered, and it could be like twice as fast or 50% better or something that I'm just missing. I'm just basing this off of the number of transistor density that you can put on the chip now. So the more transistors, the faster your chip. The more powerful your chip can become. So this is just very early preliminary information, and we'll see as time comes. But it wouldn't sway me if they were available right now. I'd still buy the PlayStation 5 in its current form.
Yeah, same here. It wouldn't sway me, but
all right,
it'll be interesting to see if they do something about it.
And if it was really that important to me and everything settled down in a year from now, I would just trade in the PlayStation 5 that I got for the newer one. I'd have to pay a little bit more money, but it's a decision that I have to make as a consumer.
Right.
Same as if, do I want a PlayStation or do I want a Xbox Series X or S? It just depends on what you're willing to live with and compromise with. Maybe price is your issue, so you'll buy the Series S. If performance is your thing and you can afford a little bit more, then the Series X is your choice. And the same thing with when PlayStation did their PS4 and the PS4 Pro. So cool. Anything else on any of those topics, Nick, that you wanted to bring up before we move on to our very final one?
I don't think so. I'm ready to move on.
And then the very last thing that we would bring up is, this is a good thing, and so is the next one. Yakuza has decided that they're going to keep the turn-based combat formula that works so well in Yakuza Like a Dragon. If anybody listens to our review, the Yakuza Like a Dragon was a hit with everybody on the team. Everybody loved that game. It was one of those games you just couldn't put down, and I loved the combat. I do like some turn-based combats, and some of them I don't, but Yakuza did it right. It felt really good and really fluid. But they basically have said, we think this formula is going to work. I think this was discovered in an interview with that Gatoku guy, the Ryu Gatoku. I can't ever pronounce his name. I butchered it in the podcast last time, but the Ryu Gatoku guy, the director and the director, they basically said, yeah, we think this design and this formula is going to work. We're going to keep it. So they will carry on with this play style. Nick, what do you think about their decision to keep the turn-based combat in their games for future games right now?
Awesome. I'm glad. I've never been big into the Yakuza franchise, and it's mainly because of the combat. I think the story is really good. I just didn't like the combat in the old Yakuza games. I don't know, just something it was just something about that combat I just didn't grasp me. But like Dragon did, I like turn-based combat, and I really enjoyed that combat style, and I was hoping that they'll keep future iterations using that combat style, and it sounds like they will. And that's awesome. I'm happy about that. I think we were all kind of hoping that they would keep this, and we might even said so in the podcast, and it seems like they will. The only one that's not going to have that is they are making they made Judgment, which came out I think in 2019 or something like that for PlayStation 4, and then it came out recently for the rest of the consoles for Xbox and PC or Switch or something like that. They're coming out with a new one called what is it, Lost Judgment, I think, that comes out later this year, and that one is going to keep the traditional combat style. And Judgment had that traditional combat style, and I actually liked Judgment. Judgment still had that kind of fighting, which I didn't care for, but the story was really good in Judgment. It was a lot of fun. So they probably just kept it in this one because they probably already started to develop it, I would imagine, since it's going to come out this year. And then they just kind of, probably recently made the decision that they're going to keep with the new combat style. So from what I understand, the last Judgment or Lost Judgment is going to be the last Yakuza game that currently at least, to have that action fighting in it. And then every future release will have the, turn-based. Now, will they go back to that action combat in some spin-offs or maybe even some mainline series? That's a possibility. They could always come back to that action fighting thing. But, I think Yakuza Like a Dragon, I don't know how other Yakuza games did, but I know this one did really well. And I think it was because of that turn-based combat. And, and that's even through critics and stuff, that was one thing that a lot of people really liked. So I think that, that just pretty much gave them okay, I think we're good with this. I think we should go along with this. People seem to play it more, or people seem to enjoy it more. Or maybe this is their first, maybe they're like me and they really couldn't get into the Yakuza games, but this one they really got into, and it's because I mean, they all have great stories, but because of that combat, that's really what hooked me in that game.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, and Lost Judgment comes out like September 24th of this year. So it was probably in development. It's been in development for a few years, and with the success of Yakuza Like a Dragon, they weren't gonna just like completely change combat that's already probably been fleshed out, or maybe they just didn't want to. I mean, who knows? I was in the same boat with you. I played some of the Yakuza games, thought they were okay. They were very, I would consider like Smash type, just basically hack and slash games with a fighter. So and I was like, oh, they're okay. They have RPG elements, and the combat was okay, but the flashy combat, the turn-based combat of Yakuza was just hilarious. It just meshed well with their gameplay and trying to make a weird transition of the real world versus the video game world that he sees everything in. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear it, and I'm looking forward to another Yakuza game with that same combat style. Now, I will admit, I will probably give Lost Judgment a try, just because I may not buy it as a day one buy. Maybe not. I don't know. Depends on the reviews as we get closer to it. But because of Like a Dragon, I looked more at their other franchise games to see what I wanted to play.
Yeah, I believe Lost Judgment is like a continuation of Judgment.
Yes.
I believe story wise as well. So, Judgment's. I have Judgment for PlayStation 4. I got it when it came out, and it does have that action combat, but it's really good. Like the story is really good and it's really interesting. So, I want to look into Lost Judgment as well because I played Judgment. So, I have, even though I have it on PlayStation 4, I might pick up Judgment on the Xbox just so I can get the achievements and stuff and play through it again to get the achievements and everything. And then, because more than likely, Lost Judgment, well, not more than likely, but Lost Judgment is not a PlayStation 4 exclusive like Judgment was. It's going to be coming out for everything on release day. So, that, and most third parties like you and myself and pretty much the rest of the podcasting team, we buy our third parties pretty much on Xbox exclusively. So that's where I would kind of want to play Judgment and then go into Lost Judgment in September.
Right. Yep. So I'm definitely excited for this, and yeah, I will probably. I will say that one of the bigger moves for them was to stop being exclusive because it opened up for more people. I will. I mean, we probably would have played Yakuza Like a Dragon even if it wasn't on the Xbox, but I think it just probably helped. I guarantee their sales went through the roof more after they were on Xbox and everything, PlayStation and Xbox. So, yeah, turn-based combat was a winner for me in here. I mean, Yakuza's always had kind of flashy action combat, but being able to do the weird little role-playing game in combat was just hilarious. It added a little something extra to the game that I thought was just really well. And it was just a really well put together game because that's really what set that game apart from like most other open world games to me was the combat, the turn-based combat, and the flashy stuff in between. Because outside of that, it was a normal go here, do this, mini game here, mini game there, mini game here, do this, and the story was really great. They had a really great story and really great turn-based combat, which made the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, it definitely did. And, like you said, them getting out of that exclusivity, I think really did help. I mean, look at like all the Yakuzas, right? After Like a Dragon came out, like every single Yakuza is now on Game Pass, right? Then it was never on Xbox. And now like you can play from Kami, which I believe is the first one, all the way up to 6. So, yeah, so they just like, as soon as that, there might have been an exclusivity contract or something like that, or, whatever it was, they just decided, hey, Like a Dragon must have done really well on Xbox as well as PlayStation, I assume. And so, and plus it was exclusive series. It wasn't exclusive. It was exclusive to the new consoles for Series X as well, right? Like a Dragon was. So, because the enhanced version came out on the Series X first, and then like what was it, 6 months or a year later maybe, it came out for PlayStation 5. I can't remember how long the time frame was, but so yeah, it's awesome though. But it's awesome that they're going to go that route, and it's awesome to see that game come to every platform because a lot of people, that it's a pretty big franchise for Sega, and a lot of people like it. And just being able to, first off, be able to have that franchise on the Xbox as well as PlayStation is good because more people get to play it. And them keeping the turn based, I think, will keep more people excited for new versions of the game, new iterations. Especially what I heard too is they're going to keep with Ichiban, so, or at least Ichiban's going to be in more, some upcoming games as well. And everyone loves that character, so that'll also, I think, sell this game. So that it was a good choice all around.
I'm ready to increase my Ichiban holdings. Let's go. More Ichiban holding gameplay. So cool. All right. Well, that's it for the news. Unless, Nick, you've got anything additional you want to add from any of the topics from tonight?
No, these are all
All
good
right.
things. It'll be interesting to see what happens with all of them. And I'm excited for Yakuza keeping it turn-based.
All right. Well, we appreciate you listening this far. And if you've listened this far already, you should like this video and subscribe to our channel, because if you've stuck with us this long, then this means you must like what we're doing. So go ahead and, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell for the notifications, and then go ahead and like this video. Put some comments down there. Let us know what you liked, or maybe have some rebuttals to some of the stuff we said. So we appreciate you catching us on this weekly episode of ITD Gaming News, and be sure to catch us weekly with 3 episodes. We put out a general topic on Tuesday, a game review on Friday, and then we put out the news on the weekend. So we hope to catch you in the next episode.